horrible things about following Rachel is that she's always so prepared and eloquent, and then I'm not. There's one thing before I start. Just this week, a trans activist and man who claims to be a woman called Jessie Gender did a 90-minute YouTube video calling me a transphobic, racist, white supremacist, and in it he used clips of me speaking to justify, like it'd be things like me saying, I just think people should live in reality. See, look, she's a white supremacist. It's bizarre. But he used clips from when I spoke here last time, so if he's watching again, fuck you. So, like I said, I didn't write anything down because I'm at the point where there's so many ways you can say men aren't women. Bored. But what I want to talk about, and I think it's really important, is female spaces and how we're justifying them and talking about them. Because we are having to use the worst experiences that have ever happened to us at the hands of men to try and get people to be on our side about them. And I'm at the point where I think this is the wrong way to do it. My reason is that we shouldn't have to relive that, to explain it. Because then the second thing is, and the concerning thing, is that when we do it, so we'll say, like either we're talking about rape or an assault or even just feeling uncomfortable, anything, the conversation that they immediately put back to us is, you're saying trans women are all predators, you're blah, blah, blah. And so we are then immediately, while the trauma is still there in us, of what we've just had to reveal, they have to go into some sort of conversation defending that we're not saying all trans people are predators. And it completely derails the conversation away from female-only spaces. Now we're just talking about the status of are some men predators and some not. We all know that some men are and some are not. So this is just such a nonsense thing, but it distracts from it and they do it on purpose. What we actually have to start doing, in my opinion, is just saying, we like them. That's it. There's no other reason. I don't care if you like female-only spaces because you hate men, or because you just like hanging out with women, you find them fun, you find them relaxing. You just like them. They can't argue with it. Because what are they going to say? No, you don't, or no, you shouldn't like them? Who gives a shit? Because the moment we give them any ground to sit there and try and mince our words with things like, you're calling all trans people predators, is it puts us on the back foot in a way, because it puts us in a position of playing their stupid game. I just won't do it anymore. I've been thinking about it recently, like we all have this journey with it, from when we first realize what's going on, and you start off with like, oh, like some people are really trans. And then like, oh yeah, like, I'll say trans women, that's fine, and then you get to the point like, okay, trans identifying males is probably what it is, and then you get to the point where it's just men. That's it. And I don't actually really care how they dress, although I'm at the point now, because of all this, I kind of do in a way, because I don't know if a man is wearing a skirt because he likes it, or because he has a boner underneath, and it's relevant. But it's just like, they're just men, and they're doing all of the different things that these predatory men have done in the past to derail women's rights, and they're not going to listen to us talk about our experiences. If they were, they would have listened already. Yeah. So it's just, we just shut the conversation down. Because I'm just, you think about like female-only book clubs and things like that. You don't have to have been raped to want to go to a female-only book club, and we shouldn't have to even bring it up. So yeah, that's pretty much like where I'm at with all of that. And I can talk about it a bit now, so I will. So I'm going to federal court with Roxy Tickle. And I run an app, and so when you're in a situation where like you're not dealing with essentially physical threats, because it's the internet, which by the way I think the natural evolution for female-only spaces is that more and more will exist online, not that the natural evolution for them is that men will be in them. But for me, it's always just been very much about just creating a place that's just women just like to be in. They just have fun. They can say their opinion or talk to other women or like test, sometimes like we've done it in this room this weekend, like you test out different theories or thoughts that you have. When you're doing it amongst other women, it's different than when you're doing it amongst men because you don't sort of get told that you're wrong. You have this space to sort of think through your thought. And it's just nicer. And so, I think of a lot of things at the moment and just in terms of like, I suppose in terms of legal things of like, what's the argument there and what's going to work. And I think that the two things that it comes down to is one, men aren't women, and two, we want female-only spaces, end of story.
Yeah.
So basically we, on the 28th of April, we find out, the next hearing, we'll find out if it's going ahead. I thought it was going to happen at the first hearing, but it didn't. So it's just this long, 6 weeks now of just waiting. The legal team has got 6 weeks worth of work to do. It's crazy. And so if it goes ahead, it's going to federal court and we do a constitutional challenge. That means that we basically challenge gender identity in the Sex Discrimination Act and get women put in the Sex Discrimination Act, ideally, because I don't know if everyone knows this, but women aren't in it. Which, why have a Sex Discrimination Act if the group of people it exists for aren't in the fucking thing? And kind of on that, I think we really need to, in Australia, have a conversation that starts about how Julia Gillard, it was under her government that this happened, the Sex Discrimination Act in 2013. And she has dined out on being Australia's first female Prime Minister and the misogyny speech for how many years now? But all the while she took away our rights. I think she's going to be held accountable for it. And because it's devastating that a woman, our first female Prime Minister did this to us. We're going to go to court and do this, and hopefully I think we'll win, especially in the High Court, that we'll win and we'll get women back. Because you have to think truth will prevail, reason will prevail. But I do have trust in it. But I am an optimist in that respect. When you do a constitutional challenge into the High Court, I think Kat said it yesterday, you might not get change out of $500,000 to $750,000 for doing it. Why do the Australian people need to pay that much money to get a woman put in the Sex Discrimination Act? It should be a phone call. We should already be in there, obviously, but the fact that we're not, it should be a phone call and be can you just be fined and replace and make sure women is back in there? It's pretty stressful and crazy on that side of it, but no, we'll win. And so, it might take the next year or so, but I think that why the UK women are so far ahead of us in all of this is because they took it to the courts, and that's where it's going to be won. As we've seen with what Rachel just showed with everything with the women with the female prisons, the politicians aren't going to do anything because they're just cowards. There's no meaningful votes in it yet because it's not a national issue like they've made it in Scotland. They're just not going to do anything. But the courts have to. Law is law. So basically, does anyone have any specific questions? I know we're going to do a panel. Anything specifically, just to not take up time in the panel. Anything right now? Yeah.
Very quickly, I think it was Sheila who mentioned freedom of association.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're saying. You're talking about because I want to.
Yeah.
And that means I choose to be with this
100%. I actually did an interview with The Australian this morning. There's going to be an article, I think, tomorrow about a particular big deal. And I said, diversity and inclusion, if you want to even go onto that banner of it, sort of exists in the marketplace, just of the world. I'm talking in my context. So, I just want a female-only app or website to exist. But there are trans ones, trans-only, that I would get kicked off on if I went on that. Cool. There's a social networking platform exclusively for furries. Surprise, surprise, they don't really have to do that much security to keep everyone out because we leave it alone. But and I know that now, say Grindr is infiltrated with all of this nonsense, but from the beginning of like Grindr, like the gay men dating app, for the first 10 years of it, there was no problem. Women didn't go into it because we knew it was just for men. It's like we don't go, like creating a male-only gym is really quite easy to do. You just make it dark and put lots of big men in it, and then women self-segregate from it. If you make a female-only gym, then we've got to go to great lengths to keep it female-only because the men want to come in. And that's just one of the main differences between men and women. Because you don't, how strikingly different men and women actually are is never more obvious than when you're dealing with men who want to be women, and you see how they'll behave with it all. So yeah, it's totally just freedom of association, and everybody should have the freedom of that. Like I say all the time, I mean, if women want to, or people in general want to create women plus trans women only spaces, I say Godspeed. I think that they will become male-only spaces very quickly.
Yeah.
But I think some people might need to have the social experiment of it to work it out. And I think that if politicians, all these politicians that claim that trans rights are human rights and this is just so important and they're the most marginalized minority in the world, they really think that, will go and try and convince taxpayers to pay for these third spaces.
Yeah.
And put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they'll eventually just be, men will just have two men spaces eventually, so, but yeah, I think that's yeah, probably the only solution to it. Yeah?
How can we support you?
Oh yeah, so the great irony of it all is that we can't go on like GoFundMe or anything, because we'll just get kicked off. So we'll get kicked off a crowdfunding platform for trying to raise money to defend ourselves against a man who got kicked off a female-owned platform claiming discrimination. So we had a long talk about it, and whether we'd go through the process, like go on GoFundMe, get kicked off, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is stressful, I'm tired, I don't want to do that. So we've actually just taken it upon ourselves, we're building it now. Our own one. It's just like a really simple website, but it will just be donated straight to us. So it has the benefit that there's no like fees that will go to GoFundMe or any place like that. So we can just go straight to the legal team. So hopefully that will be up in like the next week. Some of the things when you're working with coders and they say, yeah, it'll take 2 days. And it's like, oh, actually no, it's going to take 7. That's basically where we are. But yeah, we're going to crowdfund it. It's going to be expensive. I mean, it's going to be expensive, and that's sometimes the part that stresses me out the most, but you know, how much is women's rights worth to us? We shouldn't have to pay it, but we do. It's the situation we're in, and I really don't have anything else to say. I think everyone said everything else yesterday, today, Friday. Let's just keep doing this. We'll win. Take everything to the courts. If you find a way to take the workplace, want to do a May 4th starter here, we need all of that. Just regardless of. Pardon? Oh, the new one? Okay. So yeah, so it's coders are just on a break from doing it right now because they're building the goddamn crowdfunder. So we're just finishing it. So the next one that launches, we've got a new name, new company. So not that stupid to put it in the same company that's in litigation. So that's just one of the other things I'm being taken to court for an app that doesn't exist. It's quite bizarre. I can't, one of the things that demands in it is to allow him on it. I couldn't, I wanted to. But I'm not even on it. So the new one, yes, so we'll launch soon. It's just a process, it just takes a long time. Because what we've basically done is we've created a website, tablet and smartphone access. And it will be, to start off with, a female-only Twitter and a strictly lesbian-only dating platform. So it's strictly female-only. It's basically the same process as before. We've perfected it all a bit more. And yeah, it's really cool. I'm really excited about it. It's really fun. I get to play with it all the time, but it's sort of boring when there's no one else on it. But yeah, but yeah, it's really, really cool. So just everybody, just if you can't speak up publicly and everything, again, just support women who can, and then the women who can speak up, and we'll get more women who can speak up, and then eventually we'll all be able to, and this will all be over. I genuinely believe it. Thank you.